Is real butter better, or are you mad about margarine? If the latter has won out in your butter battle, here's everything you should know about the most dreaded of the buttery spreads. Country Crock has a long history of making butter-flavored spreads, offering them up since 1945 as an alternative to dairy-based butters. They've never made a big secret about producing margarine-like spreads, but that didn't prevent a class action lawsuit from emerging in 2022. Consumers alleged that the company's plant butter packaging was misleading. The problem? The tub proclaimed that the substance was made with olive oil and featured a picture of an olive branch. Except olive oil was barely present. Instead, less wholesome oils took its place, like palm and canola oils. Country Crock defended its decision in court, stating that olive oil was only meant to convey flavor notes, but the damage was done. And it wasn't the first time either. The National Milk Producers Federation was having a cow about Country Crock back in 2019, stating, "The use of butter terms for imitation butter products is an egregious slap in the face." It went on to argue that Country Crock didn't even legally qualify as margarine, and it failed to meet the FDA's requirement that a margarine contain at least 80% fat. It used to be even worse. Country Crock Original Spread was stuffed full of preservatives and additives before the company reformulated its recipe in 2015 to what they called a simpler and healthier recipe. Is it even worth it? One Walmart shopper said of the changes, "I used to think Country Crock was just as good as real butter spread on a piece of toast or a biscuit. Now it's just flavorless fat."
Buttery, new Brummel Brown. The creamy taste of butter blended with the goodness of yogurt.
Brummel Brown markets itself as a wholesome product made with real yogurt, but this brand may not live up to their own hype. While Brummel Brown Original Spread has only half the fat and calories of real butter, it's also a highly processed product. Existing somewhere between dairy butter and margarine, ingredients in the spread include palm kernel and palm oil, soybean oil, and other additives. Palm oil is problematic. Despite being rich in antioxidants, it's also high in saturated fat, and palm oil plantations are a leading contributor to deforestation and other ecological issues. Soybean oil is another potential problem. Studies published by the University of California, Riverside in 2022 have linked soybean oil to obesity, diabetes, and even stranger, neurological, genetic, and metabolic changes in mice. Although we don't have definitive answers yet, researchers believe that, quote, "in all likelihood, it is not healthy for humans." Is a butter substitute worth busting your brain for? Reviewers are also complaining that the product just isn't worth the money after it recently doubled in price. The affordable Imperial brand is easy to find at most grocery stores, but don't be fooled by those buttery sticks. As the packaging states, it's lactose-free, and like most similar spreads, it's made with a vegetable oil blend. But it also contains additives you might want to be aware of if you have food sensitivities, like distilled monoglycerides, soy lecithin, and calcium disodium EDTA. Don't be alarmed by all of the big words, though. Soy lecithin is one ingredient that's often surrounded with questions. It's a natural substance extracted from soy, and it's often found in dietary supplements. It's known to reduce cholesterol, according to multiple studies, and the process of extracting lecithin from genetically modified soybeans removes most soy allergens, but people who are allergic to soy might still have problems. Some consumers may also object to the chemical processes used to isolate lecithin. As for taste, one reviewer on Walmart said, "Saltiest thing since the Dead Sea." Another simply said, "Worst butter I've ever tasted." Parkay has been available as a butter substitute for nearly 90 years, and it's one of the few brands on the list that isn't dairy-free, as it includes whey, a derivative of milk, and it's available in sticks, spreadable tubs, and a spray.
For better buttery taste, it's
Parkay.
What did you expect?
Like any margarine-type spread, Parkay contains a vegetable oil blend, which includes soybean oil, palm oil, and palm kernel oil. Health-conscious consumers might want to take notice of the mono and diglycerides in Parkay, but the World Health Organization maintains that you'll find these naturally occurring substances in many types of foods. They're so common that they've been deemed safe by the European Food Safety Authority and the Center for Science and the Public Interest. Don't let the big words scare you. Though safe, these mono and diglycerides usually also contain very small amounts of trans fats, which are a known problem. But if the amount of trans fats is less than half gram per serving, the FDA allows manufacturers to round down and put 0 on the package, which is why Parkay appears to have no trans fats. On paper, it's safe, but trans fats can add up, leading to unhealthy consequences, like heart disease and even increased occurrences of dementia. Like many butter substitutes, move-over butter comes with a significant ingredient list. One red flag is fractioned palm oil. It's an ingredient used by manufacturers to replace partially hydrogenated oils, which have been deemed unsafe by the FDA. Unfortunately, fractioned palm oil has a higher amount of saturated fat than regular palm oil, and saturated fat is pretty bad for your heart. It's still a lot less than real butter, and that's its main selling point. As for user reviews, Move Over butter tends to get high ratings, and people say they enjoy the butter-like taste, which derives from actual sweet cream buttermilk. One Walmart reviewer called it the best tasting of all the fakes. I Can't Believe It's Not Butter first launched its butter substitute spread in 1981, during an era when people thought hydrogenated oils were healthy. The brand quickly gained popularity, thanks in part to catchy commercials.
I can't believe it's not butter.
Although I Can't Believe It's Not Butter contains the usual not exactly nutritious blend of oils, it's a shorter list of ingredients than many of the other buttery spreads, with no mono and diglycerides or calcium disodium EDTA in sight. While the original spread contains milk as part of its undisclosed natural flavorings, they also have a vegan variety if you need to go completely dairy-free. Overall, it seems to get high marks, but environmentally conscious consumers might want to take notice of the heavy use of palm oil. Smart Balance markets itself as a healthy product containing omega-3 fatty acids, claiming that it supports healthy cholesterol levels. Despite this, the ingredient list still has some familiar controversial additions, like calcium disodium EDTA and palm oil. So how does it taste? In 2022, Smart Balance changed its formula to use a smaller amount of vegetable oil, and the new water-heavy product was called Very Weird by former fans. After receiving a large amount of negative feedback from customers, the company announced it would go back to the original formula, but something was still not right, and the original formula was never really recaptured. One Walmart shopper recently said, "We have been using and liking this margarine as long as it has been available, and even stuck with it through the changes. Until now, the taste is terrible, and it is too soft." Unfortunately for Smart Balance, this reviewer isn't the only one to request that the company returns to its real original formula. When you think of Land O'Lakes, you probably associate the brand with real butter, or its controversial former mascot. Land O'Lakes is a farmer-owned company that has been making dairy products since 1921, but they also offer a line of vegetable oil blend butter-like spreads. Like all other butter-adjacent replacements, it contains a long list of ingredients, and the presence of mono and diglycerides means you'll also find a small amount of trans fats. More concerning is two separate investigations launched against Land O'Lakes suppliers. In 2009, a dairy supplier in Pennsylvania was accused of unethical treatment of its dairy cows. Veterinarians hired by Land O'Lakes found that the treatment of cows wasn't technically cruelty, but that their living conditions could be improved. And in 2017, an employee at a separate dairy supplier in Pennsylvania was fired for, among other things, punching cows and stabbing them. Earth Balance Buttery Spread is marketed as a healthy product, but compared to fat-filled butter, most things are. Earth Balance does contain some of the less offensive oil, like canola, olive, and flaxseed oil, but it also includes problematic palm and soybean oils. People looking for a truly healthy alternative to butter will be disappointed though. At 100 calories and 11 grams of fat per serving, this spread has about the same calories and fat as real butter. Earth Balance also suffers from overwhelmingly negative reviews showcased on their own website. Choice comments call the recently reformulated spread a sliding moldy oil, genuinely nauseating, and no bueno, with more than a few calls for whoever approved this change to lose their job. Further reviews called out Earth Balance as being rock hard and unspreadable.
The butter's all Now you're watching your There's dinner rolls ripping out there as we speak!
Other small business bakers reported that the sudden, unannounced change ruined their hard work and made everything taste rancid or strange. All in all, this is a buttery brand you might want to steer clear of. With a name like Olivio, you'd think this spread should be a healthier, olive oil-forward alternative to regular butter, or many of the spreads on this list, but the ingredients list reveals the same disappointments. Despite olives figuring heavily into the package's design, the brand's vegetable oil blend lists olive oil third, right after canola and palm oils. It's a design that feels intentionally misleading. Reviews find consumers stating the spread doesn't melt properly, saying, "Just sits on top all stiff, unappealing foam-like. How do they sell this stuff?" And like many others on this list, other consumers complain of Olivio being difficult to spread and leaving a bad aftertaste. Target tries its best to capture the essence of butter with their Good & Gather plant-based buttery spread. Everything on the label is listed as organic, which is bound to be a big draw for the clean eaters hoping to avoid dodgy pesticides and herbicides in their diet. But there are also 5 different oils involved in conjuring this close-to-butter spread: palm, coconut, sunflower, flax, and canola. Having a pileup of 5 oils in a single swipe is more than you'll typically encounter in any of these spreads. Organic or not, serious questions about whether coconut oil remain. The American Heart Association reminds us that it's actually worse for us than real butter, with 84% saturated fat compared to butter's 63%. At some point, if you're not strictly dairy-free, it's better to just go with the real thing. Aside from a fat slab of meat, the best reason to go to any Texas Roadhouse is to get a bite of their honey cinnamon buttery spread. But be prepared to be disappointed if you think that butter comes from a cow. Like everything else here, it's a mix of vegetable oils. Reddit reports from the Texas Roadhouse fridge reveal that at one location, their cinnamon butter is made from Summer-Made Butter Blend, a mix of real butter and palm and soybean oils, plus an undefined bioengineered ingredient. This isn't exactly what you get at home. No, the take-home version is apparently a bit worse, adding palm kernel oil to the mix. And we've already discussed the terrible ecological impact palm oil comes with. No buttery spread is worth sacrificing an entire ecosystem.